Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today to talk about how to deal with a parent that is spiritually or emotionally unhealthy. Get used to seeing me in my bed because this is my safe place. Like, this is where I work. Even when I'm fully dressed, makeup, hair, everything, I work from my bed because it's where I'm the most comfortable. It's where I feel like I get the most work done. So you might as well just get used to seeing it. So I'm going to just jump right in and we're going to get to it. So, what this is about is I want to share 6 things that you can do if you are the child of an addict or a spiritually or emotionally unhealthy parent. If you are the child of one of those things, one of those people. And here's what prompted this for me. So, yesterday I watched this movie and it's called Beautiful Boy. I do recommend it. It's not for kids. It has some language and obviously deals with drug addiction, and it's pretty brutal to watch. And I believe it's also a book. It is a book. I'm going to get the book. But anyway, there's a scene in this movie where so it's about this dad who's struggling with his son's drug addiction. And there's a scene in the movie where him and his wife, they go to this Al-Anon meeting or Alateen meeting. And those are meetings for people who know somebody who is an addict and they just need to get their head on straight. And they just need support and help and all of that. So anyway, on the wall, it said this. It said, "I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it." I'm going to say that one more time because some of you need to hear this today because I sure did. I wish I would have had these words years ago. My mom was an alcoholic and I grew up under that, and it was awful because I felt crazy all the time. So I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it. So those 3 phrases are like just help you to get sane and get your head on straight, okay? So knowing those truths, here's what I want to say to you, to those of you who have come up under an addict or an emotionally or spiritually unhealthy parent. First of all, it is not your fault. You are not causing it right now, and you didn't cause it. It's not your fault. I know you feel like maybe if you did more or you were better or if you listened better or if you got yourself together or whatever, but it's not your fault. And you did not cause it, and you're not causing it, and you cannot control this, and you cannot cure this. You cannot fix it. God can fix it, but that's only if that person is willing to bend a knee to him, because he can do anything, but we have to be willing to surrender to him. Okay, so here are the things that I want to say that you can do, because you can't control them, right? You can't cure them, you can't do anything, but you can deal with yourself. And here's what you can do. The first thing is, because you need to get healthy yourself, is you can get help. And so I would encourage any of you who have an unhealthy parent or an unhealthy, tangled up relationship with somebody who is an addict or spiritually or emotionally unhealthy, get help. Find a therapist. Find kind, wise counselors. Find somebody to talk to. If you can't, then read books by people who know what they're talking about. A great one, and we're going to get to this down the list when we talk about boundaries, but is the book Boundaries. I have a book coming out, The Complicated Heart, where I talk about these things. But if you can't find an in real life safe person to talk to, although I hope that you can, then get a book. Watch a documentary, watch a movie, learn everything you can, but get help. I cannot recommend a counselor or wise friends and mentors enough. And here's another reason why you need an outside person. I just learned the term recently, gaslighting. And I've been hearing this term. I just really didn't quite understand it. I couldn't wrap my mind around what it meant until recently. I was Googling, what is it about an addict's child? This was for me. I was like, why did I always feel crazy? Like when I was with my mom, I never knew what was up and what was down. Like I just couldn't get my head straight. I felt crazy. I couldn't trust my own reality, like how I was seeing things, how I was viewing things, because I was being manipulated and I was just so tangled up in our relationship that I could not see straight. I did not know what was true and what wasn't true. And the things I thought were true, I began to question, because that's just what happens. And I found out that the term for that is what gaslighting is. So what I learned that my mom did to me, whether intentionally or unintentionally, is that she gaslit me. Meaning she made me feel like I was the crazy one. So like if I would approach her about something, and then I would start to get mad because let's say she was telling me I was stupid or ugly or whatever, and then I started to get upset, she'd get like so calm. And she'd be like, "Why are you getting so angry? You have a problem." And then you're like, what? And that is what being gaslit is. So some of you know what that's like to feel, but you didn't know there was a term for it, and there actually is, and that's what that is. So you need to get help. You need people that will surround you, that will tell you the truth, that can see things from a neutral perspective and say like, you're not crazy, and this is happening. This is true. Okay, so this is not in depth or exhaustive, obviously. But the second thing is you need to pray. I mean, like, pray your heart out. God hears you whether you're on your knees, face down, or whether you're just talking to him while you're doing your dishes and you're crying out to him and you're saying, "God, help me to see straight. Help me to believe the truth." Ask him to make his voice louder than the voice of the enemies. And I was reading somewhere, and I can't remember where, that often God's voice is the whisper. So we have to learn to listen to the whisper. But here's the thing: we want God's voice to be louder than the enemy's voice. Pray that God would search you and lead you in the right direction, that he would lead you in the everlasting way, that he would lead you towards healing and truth and light. Ask him for help. Beg him for help. And then as you're doing that, when you're ready, these are not necessarily in order, but then you're going to be able to pray for that person who hurt you, that person who's not remorseful, that person who you are trying to figure out how the heck to forgive when your wounds are still open. But if you can start praying and asking God to search you and to start healing you, then eventually you're going to be able to say, like, "God, help them to surrender. Help them to see the truth. Help your voice to be louder than the enemy's voice in their minds." So you need to be praying. And this goes along with that. The other thing is, you've got to deal with your junk. And here's what I mean by junk. I mean our sin, our wounds, our lies, our false beliefs, the vows that we make. I remember saying, "I will never be like my mother." I made a vow. The problem with vows is that we then are trying to control our reality, and we're trying to control everything about us and who we're going to be. And the thing is, we're not taking into account the fact that we are human, that we are clay, that we sin, that we have pain, that we have histories. Like, we can't figure all of those things out. So instead of making a vow, we say, "God, would you help me to be faithful? Would you help me not walk that same path that my mom or my dad walked? Would you help me to trust you? Would you help me that when I am using whatever escape it is, whether it's the internet, whether it's sex, whether it's pornography, whether it's alcohol, whether it's medication, whether it's whatever your escape is, that is not your problem. That is what is helping you to deal with your problem. That's what's covering your problem. That is how you're dealing with your pain. And so if we're going to get healthy, then we have to deal with our junk. We have to deal with the problem that's underneath the escape, that's underneath the thing. And we cannot do that without crying out to the Lord and getting help and being willing to face the truth and being willing to face our pain, no matter how much it hurts. And it does hurt, but it's worth it. It's worth the freedom and healing that comes after the pain. So deal with your junk. And to do that, find a counselor, find a friend, find somebody, journal, talk to a safe friend, talk to your spouse, say what what blind spots do I have? Or do this, start to pay attention to your triggers. What is making you like rage? Like, when are you yelling at your kids? When are you yelling at your spouse? And I'm not talking about for just annoying things like, ugh, like they're not listening to you again or something, but like when do you feel so angry and out of control? Write that down, and then write what happened right before that, because usually there is a lie there. Pay attention to when you say things like, I will never, or I would never, or I could never do that. Okay, there's usually a lie there too. So pay attention. Write those things down, and then write the context and ask the Lord. Get curious. Say, God, what is this? What's this about? Would you reveal to me what it is? Or when you're anxious, or when you're feeling depressed. I'm not talking about like chemical depression stuff. I'm talking about when you start to feel really down and like dark and just kind of like, that's when you need to say, what's going on here, God? And again, write down the context of that, and you'll begin to see patterns. And then you can ask God, what are the lies I'm believing? What are the vows I'm making? What false beliefs am I like giving into? The other thing too, when it comes to getting curious and asking the Lord about these things, is don't judge yourself in the process. This is again why we need counselors. See, I had somebody teach me that. I've had somebody teach me all of these things. None of this is from my own brain, okay? So it's just all the stuff I've gone through. So I remember I was dealing with, so in my past, my mom was an alcoholic, but of course it's not just the alcoholism that affects us, right? It's all the outpouring of that. And so because of those things, like I was neglected. Because of those things, I was verbally abused. Because of those things, these other things happened. I was exposed to sexual stuff way too early. And so I was talking with a counselor this past summer, and I was trying to deal with something else that comes up, because things just come up. We're never fully healed until heaven, but we can be walking on the path of healing. And I was dealing with some thoughts that were like, to me, like, ugh, gross. And I was like beating myself up, and I was like, this is so gross. Like, I don't even want to tell you what I'm thinking. Like, I don't even want to like face this. And I just was like judging myself. And she said, Sarah, stop judging your thoughts, because if you're judging them, then you're not going to be able to just put them on the table before the Lord and say, oh, okay, God, this is happening. Could you help me understand, like, where's that coming from? So do you see the switch? Like, instead of saying like, ew, I'm so gross, why am I thinking that? Bleh, to switching that and going, like, being gentle with myself and going, that's not a thought I would like to have. So, God, would you help me understand where that came from? Where did that thought come from? Why is that going on? And just get curious. Replace being judgmental with being curious. And that goes a long way. And then just being gentle with yourself. You know, like if somebody were to come to you who you loved and cared about and were sharing these things, you would not be like, ooh, you're disgusting. You would be like, oh, wow, I wonder where that's coming from. So do the same thing for yourself. So when I say deal with your junk, that's what I'm talking about. Face the pain, and then find safe people to walk through it with, and begin to deal with those things. Okay, the next thing. This is crucial in dealing with an unhealthy person in your life. Really a parent is what I'm talking about. And perhaps some of you a child, but I'm not there yet to know enough to speak on that. But I will say this. If you had a parent that did not give you what you needed, because see, when God made parents, he made them to love us, to nurture us, to build into us, to teach us, to guide us, imperfectly, of course. They're going to fail. All parents will fail, except for God. He's the only father who will never fail us. But you have legitimate unmet needs. And it's okay to say that. It is okay to not make excuses. It is okay to say, my mom did not give me what my little girl heart needed. She did not give me what the Lord designed her to give me. And that is something worth mourning. That is something worth grieving, because it is a loss. And grieving is the process of facing reality. The reality is, not all of us got what we should have had in a parent. And so we need to mourn that. And how I learned to do that and I've had to do that throughout my life in several different ways, but one big one was that I had to learn how to mourn the loss of a mother. Even though she was alive, I had to say, I am going to mourn her as though she is dead. Because it is the only way that I know how to release her from the expectation of being what she is unable to be for me. And that is a nurturing, caring, loving, supporting mother. And so in the process of mourning, it sets me free. It's painful. I mean, it is gutting. It is gutting. I would love to have a mother. But I don't. And that is worth grieving over. But once I did that, then I released her, and then she could just be a human that I could see, who was in the image of God, that I could love eventually. I wasn't ready when I first mourned her, but I knew that if I could release her from expectation, that eventually I would be able to love her as a person that was unattached from me, the best that I can on this side of heaven. So mourn your very real losses. Face the reality of the loss, name it, and then grieve it. None of these things that I'm talking about are quick processes. They take time. But you are not alone in it. God is with you, and He is kind, and He will guide you. Okay, the next thing is that I had to learn to do, and that I want to encourage you to do, is to set boundaries, not walls. So what a lot of us do when we're hurt, and what I did, is we put up these walls. Like, you will not hurt me. Or my vow, I will never be like my mom. Wall, bam, not gonna do it. We put these walls up, and we don't want to let people in too much because they will hurt us, or they will leave us, or they will do whatever it is, or they'll step on all the landmines of our heart, and we cannot allow that, right? So we put these walls up, and we get a little bit like a stiff arm, and those are not boundaries. There's a great book called Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend, somebody Townsend. If you need to know how to set boundaries, read that book. It is excellent. And he talks about that boundaries are not walls, but more like a gate. So with a boundary, you can let the good in, but you close the gate to leave the toxic out. And that is what is important. With a wall, you cannot let the good in. So you don't want to build walls. You want to build boundaries. And that is to keep you safe. It is so important. So with my mom, I had to learn, if I was going to learn to love and forgive her, then I was going to have boundaries. I was going to have to say, like, you don't get to speak into my life this way. You don't get to talk to me this way anymore. I can choose when to talk on the phone with you. I can choose when to visit you. I can choose to get a hotel instead of stay in your house. I can choose to say no. And my mom's not the only person I've had to set boundaries with. All throughout our lives, we have to learn how to set boundaries. If we don't want to be manipulated, if we don't want to be stepped on, if we don't want to be hurt, if we want to be healthy and walk the path that God has us on. So boundaries are just super, super key. There's so much more I could say about that, but I don't want this to go on too long. Plus, I did write a whole book. Okay. And the last one for now is this. It's don't give up. Keep on. Keep going. Don't let hope die. That sounds so trite. Ugh. But like, for real, I know some of you are like, I don't even want to hope. Like, I don't even want to hope. And I get that. And I'm not asking you to like saddle up with hope and be all like frou-frou about it. I'm saying like maybe dust it off and just let it sit near you. and just don't get rid of it. Just don't get rid of hope. Just let it kind of sit there. And ask God, keep praying those impossible prayers. Because here's the thing, like, God can do anything. I mean, He can really do miracles. But the other person has to be willing to bend a knee to Him. They have to be willing to surrender. And this is where the you can't fix it, you can't cure it part comes in. I know you want to save that person. I know you want to either get them out of your life or you want to see their life like totally changed. I get that. Me too. Pray impossible prayers and don't put hope up in the attic. Don't kick it out. Just keep it near you. I know it's hard, but keep going. Keep believing. Keep trusting. And at the end of it all, Keep surrendering that person to the Lord, because you cannot fix them, but you can be responsible for you, and you can be responsible for walking on the path of healing and health, not just for you, but for the generations that will come after you, because your legacy does not have to be one of dysfunction. Victory is always on the table. If you have questions for me, you can always email me at sarah@sarahmay.com. SARAH. Sarah@sarahmay.com. Okay, you guys, I'll see you later. Bye.